to talk to some folks. Other people that have not been here, my name is Misty Penton. I'm the Director of Education for Wildwood Preservation Society. We have monthly talks ranging from cultural to archaeological to biological to environmental. Pretty much anything that goes on right around here is what we want to talk about, but we also take it to a bigger place as well. We take big ideas, visionary ideas, and we bring them right back home. So in regards to that and looking in that perspective, I'm looking forward to hearing what Richard Junnier has to say about environmental sustainability and human rights. That's something that I think we have all got probably some interesting perspectives on, but Richard, having traveled internationally and actually worked in human rights, is going to have some perspectives from different places that he's been, and I want to hear those perspectives. And I'm also curious that he can compare those places to right here and kind of bring that home for us. So again, I really appreciate everybody being here, and think about things you want to ask. And Richard, just for my curiosity in the audience too, would you rather they wait to the end to ask you questions, or should we go, ooh, ooh, ooh?
I'm pretty sure they're able to decide when they want to ask a question.
Great. Well, you know, everybody that knows me knows that I'm talking about myself, because I'll ask in the middle.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Welcome.
Hey, George. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Well, I look forward to this 20
You know where the cookies are, George. All right, so without further ado, one last thing. We are recording this on Facebook Live, and we are also recording for Richard. So I just want to make sure that everybody in here is aware of that and is okay with that. All right, thank you very much. And without further ado, Richard Junnier, thank you.
Good afternoon!
Hello!
Come on.
Good
Make it sound like you mean it. There. Hi. My name is Richard Junnier. I'm an international human rights lawyer. I am a graduate of New York University College of Law with a degree in global economy and human rights, the National University of Singapore College of Law with a degree in international and comparative law, and my JD's right here at FSU, along with an undergrad in psychology. I've been to 42 countries, 12 conflict zones, and 4 revolutions. And if anybody asks me where the most dangerous place I've ever been is, according to U.S. News and World Report, it's right here in Tallahassee. Well, first of all, thank you for coming out, and I want to thank Misty for inviting me. This is actually the first time in Tallahassee I've actually given a talk about something that I was actually educated in, so it's a good relief, and I just really appreciate you all being out here today. Without further ado, what is the appropriate balance between environmental sustainability and human rights? Now, this might seem like a weird question. Most people think these are very compatible. But what I would like to go through today, by the way, this is at a wedding in India. She's trying to get in at the food. Like any good lawyer, we're going to start with our definitions. What do these words mean? What do these terms mean? Because they're very amorphous. We think we know what they mean. We feel what they mean. But that's not the same thing as actually having a definition to it. Then we're going to talk about some examples of environmental sustainability and human rights. And then we're going to look at some examples of environmental sustainability as potentially adverse to human rights. Then we're going to talk about just sustainability theory. Has anybody here heard about just sustainability theory? Well, good. I didn't waste my time looking at those articles for 20 hours. And then we're going to conclude. And just to let you know, we're going to spend about half our time just on definitions because it's important to have a good foundation before we can talk about these other things. Okay, we're going to define these 4 terms today: environmental sustainability, human rights, environmental justice, and social justice. Environmental sustainability is a condition of balance, resilience, and interconnectedness that allows human society to satisfy its needs while neither exceeding the capacity of its supporting ecosystems to continue to regenerate the services necessary to meet those needs by our actions diminishing biological diversity. That's a long definition. Anybody who here wants to give a simpler definition? I have candy for volunteers. For my friends who are on a no-carb diet, I've got meat sticks. I've got chewing gum that is called Truth or Dare. It was so suspiciously named I had to buy it today. And all kinds of fruit things and granola packs. So please, go on. Somebody volunteer. Translate this into English for me.
Everybody here knows that I will volunteer.
George.
If we don't take care of our environment, the environment will not sustain us.
Or another way of putting it is, if we don't take care of our environment's going to take care of us. Okay, great. So, environmental sustainability, I can't do that. Environmental sustainability is one of 3 interdependent pillars of sustainability. The other pillars are economic and social. It's important to remember that. Economic and social. It comes in handy later. Sustainability seeks to meet the needs of the present without compromising the needs of the future. Okay, some examples of environmental sustainability. Come get your candy. I want at least 3 volunteers to give me an example of sustainability. I got grape, apricot, strawberry, cherry. Come on. Raise your hand. Thank you, Matthew. Give me an example of sustainability.
Building structures that can maintain their temperature better or whatever, use less energy.
Sure, why not? Grape it is. Oh, sorry. Well, I'll teach you to volunteer next time. Then I aim it right to you. Okay. I want another example of environmental sustainability. These aren't tough. Come on. Yes, ma'am.
Solar energy.
Absolutely correct. Until we find a way to block out the sun, I'm sure Donald Trump is on it. Okay, I want one more example. One more example. Yes, sir.
Limits to fishing.
We're going to talk about that in great depth. I hope you're a strawberry, man. I see the pink bracelet. Okay, 3 examples of environmental sustainability. There we go. What are human rights? Okay. This is actually my area. I basically specialize in looking at things. I like looking at morality in a secular way and trying to apply to things like human rights and intervention, including like the rules of war. All right, so human rights. How do we define human rights as being separate from other lesser rights? Okay, we all know what a human right is, at least we feel we do. How do we tell the difference? This is a Socratic lecture. I'm asking questions, we learn as we answer them. Somebody who hasn't volunteered yet.
Impact on human behavior.
Impact on human behavior, okay. That earns you a cherry, I guess. Anybody else? Ron, thank you.
Not impacting on other people's privacy.
Not impacting on other people's privacy. I like it. You get apple.
I like Apple. Thank you.
All right. Are human rights universal across all geographies, cultures, times, and circumstance, or are human rights relative to each culture or epoch of time? Or are human rights an imagined social construct? Let's hear some opinions.
Yes.
Well spoken. One set. Let's pretend these are the 3 options. Universal, culturally relative, or imaginary? We just make them up.
The biggest one would be called.
Think they're imaginary? Well, that's dark. Possibly accurate, but dark. All right, come on, another opinion.
Depends upon your culture.
It depends upon your culture? Okay. So,
Things are right.
in some...
Remember the meat sticks.
Oh, yeah. These I bought it just for you for crying out loud. How come
Well, that's
you
one
haven't
argument. Some people say they're universal, but it seems to be generally depends upon culture.
Okay, so in some cultures, you can't teach a woman to read. If she learns how to read, you blind her. Is that okay?
Not to my culture.
Not to your culture. Is it okay to any culture?
No.
Are there certain rules that you just can't do it anywhere, no matter what? Are human beings just entitled to certain things, no matter where they happen to be born? All right, so make this really easy. We have A, B, C. Let's do a poll. Human rights are universal. Raise your hands. One. Yes, ma'am.
I think, okay, here's the question. You're asking what our belief system is, right? Not what, in fact, is the reality. That's the
Right.
problem here, because I'm a literalist, so, and I'm surrounded by it all day long. So if you're asking what the reality is, then I think Michael's answer is right, yes. If you're asking what my belief system is, then I can answer this more clearly.
All right, I'm asking what your beliefs are. Okay. All right, that's a pretty good plurality, if not majority. B, cultural relativism. We have no business telling other people what to believe or how to feel. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm seeing some repeats, okay? Might be how I'm phrasing it. We're just making this up. Okay, I mean, you voted for all 3, didn't you? Somebody just is applauding the word yes. Okay, what are human rights' relationship to our shared flora, fauna, and global environment?
I'd like to go back and talk about our human rights relationship between those 3 you offered, because I agree with the yes. You know, human rights are universally desired. All humans desire to have some rights, and many of them are the same. Human rights are, from my perspective, culturally determined, because you go to different cultures and they have different perspectives on how that stuff should get here.
Well, and as culture changes, you discover things that you didn't before consider. That's a human right.
Yeah, remember the
And
days?
all we know,
Epic in
ultimately,
time.
is
Slavery
what
was
we
once
perceive.
moral.
All we
Not
know,
okay?
all we know is what we perceive, so our concept of human rights is in our heads. It's
So,
not a
Is that we made
existential
it up?
separate something. Well, in a sense, yeah. I think we make it up as we go along.
Oh, by the way, I asked permission before taking that picture. It was in Serbia right after the bombing in 1999. And this is at a wedding in India, very heavily militarized for some reason. It was because the Governor Rajasthan was there. The UN High Commission for Human Rights defines human rights as rights inherent to all human beings, whatever our nationality, place of residence, sex, national or ethnic origin, color, religion, language, or any other status. The ABC of International Law. Has anybody ever heard of that before? Very good. It's an authoritative text. It happens to be published by the Swiss Foreign Office. They define human rights as the freedoms to which all individuals are entitled as human beings, regardless of color, skin, nationality, political or religious conviction, social status, age, or sex. Now, can anybody look at those 2 definitions, those authoritative definitions, and explain to me how to determine what's a human right or not? Yeah, pretty useless, aren't they? That's why we pay them the big bucks every year. The Encyclopedic Dictionary of International Law, Oxford reference, no discussion indicating a definition of human rights at the creation of the UN. So there's absolutely no legislative intent, as we would say. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights No definition. But it lists non-exhaustive specific rights. Not much more help, is it? Almost sounds like we're making it up. All right, well, luckily, lawyers at some point or another have to actually apply these definitions, so we have a legal definition. Human rights are created through customary international law, which are rights or state obligations created by international custom or norms, or by convention, treaty, or international agreement, usually through an international organization. Though considered to be universal in application, states are often only bound by obligations such human rights create if they consent to be so bound. So we're making it up as we go along, it seems. That's actually a children's daycare center in Croatia. I guess they're really afraid of their kids. And this is an island in the south of Thailand, the Gulf of Thailand. While interrelated and interdependent, human rights are typically categorized as civil and political rights, which since the end of the Cold War encompasses a subset of economic, social, and cultural rights. During the Cold War, we didn't want to get into a hot war, so the agreement all around the world was basically that we would subjugate economic, social, and cultural rights as something else. But once the Cold War ended, now they're all the same. To be discussed in sections 2 and 3 of the presentation is environmental sustainability, a subset of civil and political rights, an individual human right, or is it a separate environmental right? What do you think I mean when I say an environmental right? Hazard a guess.
Does the environment have rights?
That's exactly the question, isn't it? Can a tree have standing in court? Somebody tried it once, the answer is no.
In New Zealand, they can.
In New Zealand they can, and in Hawaii as well. Okay,
So it is culture.
from environmental equality to, did I skip one? Oh, okay. From environmental equality to environmental justice. You get to hear somebody else talk for a moment. Maybe. Can I click on? Is there a clicker for
Probably
this
not,
thing?
I don't know if the speaker is even loud enough.
Okay, well, we're skipping that then. Apparently all of them. Which is a shame because there are quite a few.
Sorry.
Environmental justice defined. The EPA defines environmental justice as the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. Okay, so there's two different things here. We're creating a procedural right and a substantive right. And by the way, this was just put on the EPA's website 1 month and 5 days ago, so it's good for the Trump administration, apparently. Okay, so procedural right is that everybody gets an equal shot at it, and the procedural and the substantive right is the equal enforcement. So whether you're a big company or the little guy, the EPA is supposed to enforce the rules the same. All right. On the good side, we'll run early because I can't play these videos. Social justice defined. Social justice is the view that everyone deserves equal economic, political, and social rights and opportunities. Social justice is not about the pie being divided equally to all. It's about all having an equal opportunity to a slice of the pie. Because when you go out there and you talk about social justice, people are going to accuse you of, saying that everything has to be divided equally. It's not about that. It's about equal opportunity. Okay, environmental sustainability as a human right. This is Lake Titicaca. They have floating islands there. I'm a big man. I was frankly a little afraid to step on them. Doing the Mark Rubio there. Environmental sustainability is civil, political, and economic rights. Civil rights, survival. With no other access to power or communications, free solar panels and satellite dishes are distributed to the villages of Lake Titicaca. Political rights, equal access. The 2014 petroleum protests of Arequipa, where the rural and indigenous citizens from where the petroleum comes gets a disproportionately small amount. Economic rights, livelihood. The livelihood of coastal Bali depend upon sustainable jungles and fisheries. So these are the three examples we're going to look at in applying environmental sustainability to human rights. Environmental sustainability / justice as a civil right. In this subsection, we are going to examine two topics related to environmental sustainability as a civil right. Environmental racism and the right to survival. Environmental sustainability as a civil right. I'm actually going to skip this one. Environmental racism. Who's heard the term before? Okay. Well, you're able to read. While you read, I'm going to talk. It turns out that things like toxic waste dumps, garbage bins, Lulus, undesirable uses of land, they disproportionately are put where? Yeah, that's what I thought too. But as it turns out, if you are a person of color or a family of color making $50,000 to $60,000 a year, you're still more likely to live in an environmentally burdened area than a Caucasian family that makes $10,000 a year. I looked it up twice to make sure because that sounded off to me too. So it's actually not about poverty. It is about ethnicity. This transcends class. What are some examples of environmental racism? We're going to take some more time here because I'm not playing the tape that comes after for 5 minutes. So give me some examples of environmental racism. And let me know if you want a Ferrero Rocher chocolate or Nature Valley sweet and salty nut. Can you tell the hurricane mist that I brought my supplies with me? All right, some examples of environmental racism. Yes, sir.
Well, coal plants are usually put up